All right. Next up, we have HybriTech, Hybrid Technologies for Cereal Crops, presented by Maria Moreno.
That was nerve-wracking. Thank you for having me. Our lab has been consumed studying the issue of food security, which is a problem that is really affecting us all. It is predicted that by the year 2050, there will be 9.7 humans on the planet, and the food production that we will have to sustain is going to be a greater challenge than that of the Green Revolution. So if we take a case study and we look at what corn was able to do, here you see depicted the trend of production in terms of bushels per acre. If you look at when hybrids were introduced in the corn crop, this happened between the 50s and 60s. And if we compare productivity from then to today, there has been a 400% increase in yield. So the story is not only nice from the standpoint of increasing food production, but it's also a very nice economic story. Corn is right now a $15 billion a year business in the US. How is this possible? Is basically by being able to produce hybrids, which my slides are moving forward. Okay. How do you make a hybrid? So essentially, you need two inbred lines that have desirable genetic characteristics in a homozygous condition, which when combined, you produce a robust plant that now has the characteristics that you so desire. One thing to keep in mind that is very important for this technology is that maize is the perfect crop for the system because you have male and female inflorescences that are in distinct part of the plant. So that means you can control you can create controlled genetic crosses, meaning you know who mom and dad are for each offspring. And this is very important. So remember, corn is a bisexual plant that has independent male and male inflorescences. In terms of the benefits is, of course, yield, but you also bring along important characteristics such as disease resistance, drought resistance, so things that we are in need of control due to the climatic demands of today. We have spent the last 25 years trying to understand and basically own the IP that determines what is necessary to turn a bisexual flower to a unique male flower by basically ablating pistil abortion, which is the female organs, and what is necessary to ablate the male organs or stamens in order to come up with a female flower or a female plant. This technology, if implemented in the rest of the cereals that feed the world, this group over here would really be transformative in terms of food production. The main commonality that these crops have is that they all have bisexual flowers where you have both stamens and pistils in the same location in the flower, which renders making controlled pollinations a very, let's call it, highly costly and time-consuming process. The first validation that we did was, of course, in maize. We wanted to know, can we really control sex? And the answer is yes. So we can effectively produce plants that are singly male, as seen here. This plant only has the male inflorescence. We can now turn that male flower into a solely female flower by overexpressing the female gene. And we can also create populations where you have male and female plants segregating. I don't know if you have a real appreciation for this, but this is the first time this has ever been done in agriculture, and it is tremendous. The potential for this technology is basically transformative and disruptive for the agricultural industry. So our technology would do something fabulous, which is it would basically render the process of making hybrids in other cereals devoid of genetic constraints because it will leave it as being genotype independent. The production cost will be low, and the development cost, in terms of the efficiency of the process, it would be very efficient, and the cost would be very low. And most importantly, it is now independent of genotype. So you can basically implement this into any stock that you would want to use to implement the hybrid. Our technology at this point is in the stage of being enabled, so we plan to do a two-pronged approach. Our first two cereals that we would like to work with are sorghum and rice, and our two technologies are first the transgenic approach, where we would need approximately roughly 18 months to develop the unisexual plants, and then the next 6 months to develop our seeds. And utilizing a gene editing approach, we basically need to first target our genes and validate their phenotypes and then produce the seed. In terms of...
We have to just wrap it up.
Right. We're now in conversations, and this is us. Thank you. You saw the minute for questions.
All right, any questions from Maria?
Yes.
You have to convince to take this. I mean, is it the producer, the guy who...
So the seed business, the market is, of course, selling the seed, right? So it would be whoever is producing the seed. And we, fortunately, we are in a position where we don't have to convince anybody. We are already in conversations with companies that are very interested in our technology for both sorghum, rice, and other cereals.
Because there's a psychological block when I see a product that says this has been genetically enhanced. You know, it makes me...
We're very aware of it. That's why we have a two-pronged approach. That's why we have the transgene validation approach, and that's why we have the gene editing approach. USDA has declared that gene-edited crops will probably not be classified as GMOs because they don't have a DNA signature. They are being identified as variants. So since there is no way to distinguish a natural variant versus a gene-editing variant, the crops will be let's say, saved from the GMO distinction.